Well, Nick, let's talk about the Queen now, because it's been reported that she's refused to sign off a palace response to the interview. And yesterday, Camilla was here and we were sort of waiting for some sort of response, which hasn't come yet. I can't imagine what's going through all their heads. I mean, they've got to tread very, very carefully, haven't they, with this next step?
They have to, and we live in a world of 24-hour news. So the old royal mantra that Camilla will know well, don't complain, don't explain, sadly no longer fits, and that will not get them through this crisis. They have got to say something. It's strange, isn't it, that it all now rests on the shoulders of, and fantastic job she's done, that she has to decide exactly how to handle this. I have to point out, I do think she probably has graver concerns at the moment, not least the health of her husband, Prince Philip. I'm sure she'd like to be focusing on that. Might I even suggest she might want to be focusing on the health of our subjects, the people who live here, and the high number that have sadly lost their lives to COVID. But we are focused on this extraordinary bombshell interview, which has made these claims that you have discussed. And the palace, they have got to say something. But to reference Philip's point, and I think he's absolutely right, this is a very ugly game now of almost royal Cluedo as to who might have made that offensive remark for which there is no justification as regards concern. I think we've got two words here. I think you can have a conversation about the colour of a baby's hair or whose nose he's going to get or whatever. To express concern, that is the real worry, and that's what the palace now has to address.
And as Camilla says, quite rightly, we don't know what that conversation was. I mean, Michelle, quite rightly, you shouldn't ever have that conversation in the first place. It shouldn't enter your head. But Camilla, the delay from the palace, the delay from the Queen, and I think, the entire nation, feels incredibly sorry that she's having to deal with this whilst her husband is poorly in hospital, thankfully appearing to recover, which is good news. I don't know whether they were sent an advance copy of the documentary. I'm assuming that people would have sat up late last night until 11 o'clock until it finished to decide, well, what is it we're going to have to say once we've watched it. But she's not going to rush into something here. It does have to be a very careful, measured response, which she's very good at.
Well, first of all, the royals themselves didn't stay up for the US airing in the middle of the night, but their aides did. And then there were a lot of conversations between the Queen and the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge yesterday with a view to how to react. I think it was a bit overblown that the Queen sort of resisted putting her signature on the statement last night. What she did was say, I just want to sleep on this and just make sure it's considered. There was also this need for the British public to actually watch it on UK TV, because I think they were aware that obviously, although journalists like me had been poring all over it in the middle of the night on Sunday into Monday, actually members of the public here hadn't seen it until it was screened on ITV last night. And yes, she is considered. And I think there is going to be a statement which is quite short, coming out, sort of trying to address the issues and trying to move things on. We know that Charles and Camilla are out on engagement today. The Cambridges are out on an engagement, I believe, on Thursday. So we're going to see royals out and about today. I don't know whether they're going to have any questions asked of them by journalists who are obviously outside these engagements, probably. But I think it's safe to say that it's been a pretty testing 24 to 48 hours for all of them. And as you say, Philip, Queen at the helm there at 94, trying to make sure that the response is the right one.
Well, yeah, I mean, Meghan wanted the right response when she was asking for help with her mental health. This was another issue that she talked about within the interview, that she approached multiple people in the firm for help and she was told that she was entitled to none. Michelle, do you think that there should have been more help there, that she should have got access to what she needed?
Yes, I think we all in hearing her felt that should have happened. It seemed to me that, because people are arguing about whether she could have gone to a doctor, it seemed to me from the interview that she was saying she wanted to go somewhere to spend a few days or a few weeks. So it seemed like she wanted to go somewhere residential to get that help, and that was deemed unsuitable. And of course, mental health is such a precious and fragile thing, especially with someone who was going to be a mum and has just joined a royal family and is being attacked. Can you imagine all the feelings? And she's lost her father in many ways. All that stress and pressure on her, you just feel that you wish someone had just said, it will be okay. You can go. We'll keep your identity secret. We'll try and keep it out to the press. Yes, you do wish that her mental health had taken precedent there.
We're gonna talk more about this later. Nick, got a phone-in coming up about mental health and having the courage and the bravery to speak out. And you know, the fact that she's addressed this. I mean, there are those who say, you know, it's all a sham, it's all a show. But you know, you talk about mental health in public, and it is a very big step. I mean, I've spoken about my own mental health over the past year. I have a red flag emoji on my phone. If I post that, then the people that I posted to come running to help me, thankfully, and it's only I haven't needed it. But there's help with friends, there's help with family, there's help with charities, and that the younger members of the royal family are involved in mental health charities. It just seems extraordinary for a woman who needed help that there wasn't somebody who could help her.
I think that's a very fair point, because if the Fab Four, as they were once known, William and Kate and Meghan and Harry, achieved anything, it was the ability to talk about your feelings. So they would have been tuned in to that network. There would have been, you'd have thought, almost an army of experts standing by, not least the fact they'd also have quite right access to some of the finest physicians in the whole of the country. And to take issue, I know why Michelle suggests, why didn't they go away? The idea that she would, and please, I'm choosing these carefully, but she sort of hide away in a secret clinic for a week or two with her emotional problems, and then suddenly it's put all across. I think that's exactly what you don't want to do. You want to be able to say, look, I'm having problems, I'm expecting a child, I'm living away from home, I have a strange relationship with my dad, a strange relationship with my half-sister. I think you want to be able to say that. So hiding in a clinic would not have been the way to go. Phillip, as you suggest, speaking to someone that you are now working with your husband in this field, that, with hindsight, and that's easy sitting here, that possibly was the path to follow.
Camilla, it just made the royal family, because of the words that were said, and we don't know, as you say, there are two halves to every story, it made it look cold and uncaring. And we've said so many times on this show, if your head is getting the better of you, you have to talk to somebody. Surely, from your knowledge of the internal workings of that place, couldn't she have found someone to speak to? And if not, why the hell not?
Well, this idea that she spoke to HR and didn't get a positive response is obviously worrying for the institution as a whole, as a place of business. And this is the problem, isn't it? And we are used to, over recent decades, frankly, these kind of stories of dysfunctionality at the heart of the monarchy, because you do have a family firm. And that's hard, isn't it? You know, a lot of the lines have been blurred in that interview as to who exactly the couple were trying to address. They talk about the firm, they talk about the institution, they also talk about family members. And the trouble with this is they're all intermingled. And equally, particularly Harry expressed frustration, didn't he, at this notion of royal aides blocking his relationships with his own royal relatives. So there's talk about him wanting to see the Queen and it being blocked by her private secretary, him wanting to communicate with his father, and then him being fearful that his father's private secretary, or indeed Clarence House, might leak the contents of his Megxit plan. So all the time you look at it from an outsider coming in and thinking, well, why on earth can't these family members sort of relate to each other like anyone here on this panel or in this show or indeed watching can? But that is because they're in a family where, you know, they have to schedule tea with the Queen. You know, their grandmother is also...
apparently, according to what we've heard of the extra stuff, might have been too busy to take their calls. Once again, we know there are two sides to every story. Just finally, Camilla, just quickly and finally, when they both woke up after this, when it's been shown around the world, is this two people at last, as Meghan said, finding your voice and speaking your truth, or are they going to think, oh God, what have we done? One commentator said yesterday it was like a velvet knife at the heart of the modern British monarchy. Are they going to think, what have we done?
I think Meghan will feel more comfortable with it. I felt that Prince Harry looked a bit uncomfortable when he was asked by Oprah, do you have any regrets? They don't have any regrets about moving. And I think there was a happy ending to the interview in the sense that they were saying they were now thriving rather than surviving, and much, much happier in LA. But I think when Harry reflects on what he has said in terms of his relations with his father and his brother, I'm sorry, but I don't understand how on earth he can think that that at the moment has resulted in a good outcome for his own relationships with his family.
All right, Camilla, thank you. All of you, thanks for joining us this morning.